You will be glad to know that when I go back next month to England, they're going to see me at the hospital and I hope do something about my leg. Also, a few weeks ago, I asked you to pray for a little boy at home called Ezekiel, who had leukemia, which is a kind of cancer, and we now have the good news that they've treated that cancer. Doctors don't usually say that cancer is cured. They say it's in remission. That means it's not working anymore, and he's reached that stage. So right now he's okay, so praise God for that. It's good to be with you again, have the opportunity to share God's word with you. We're going to start by looking at Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 31. I'll read it with you. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image." Read it with me if you like to. "After our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." I think God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, you shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. This is the beginning of a story in which all of us have a part. Earlier in this chapter, we are told that God made light, sky, land, plants, sun and moon, fish, birds, land animals, and lastly, human beings. And God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. Notice what he said earlier in the passage we read. He's going to make human beings in his image and let them rule. Rule over fish, birds, and all other animals. And in chapter 2, we're told that God took the man he had made and put him in a garden, the Garden of Eden. And he told him that his job was to work it and take care of it. So right at the beginning, God gave work to human beings. They had to rule over the rest of creation, and they had to work and take care of the garden that God had made. Why did he give them that work? He tells us in Psalm 24, verse 1. "The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it." We humans, we have a job to do, and that is to rule the rest of creation. Now, some people have taken that word rule to mean that we can do anything we like with it. We can get as much out of it as we want and do whatever we like with it. But that's not what the word means. Think of a king. It's a king or a queen who rules. And a good king cares for his people, makes sure everything works for their good. A bad king exploits his people. We are to be good rulers. Think about Joseph. He is a good example of what I mean. He was sold by his brothers to be a slave, and he was bought by a man called Potiphar in Egypt. And so he worked for Potiphar as a slave. And because he knew and loved God, he worked very hard and he did his job well. And Potiphar was very pleased. And Potiphar made Joseph his steward. We looked up what steward is in French in our class recently. It means intendant or régisseur. And Joseph looked after everything that Potiphar had, it says. His household, that's all his family and his servants, and everything he owned. And it says that Potiphar was only concerned about the food he ate. Everything else Joseph did, because he trusted Joseph so much. And we're told that as a result of Joseph's good work and the fact that he honored God, God blessed Potiphar's household and everything he had. And that is how we are meant to rule God's creation. We are his stewards. This is what he planned for us to do. He created us in his image. That means we represent him. The image of something represents you. A photograph or a painting represents you. And we represent God because we are made like him. I know that Adam and Eve sinned, and that spoiled the image of God. But it didn't. It wasn't lost. And Jesus came to earth to show us what that image is really like. And also, when he died and rose again, he made it possible to restore God's image in us. Going back to Adam, God told Adam that he had to care for the garden, look after, rule the creation. And he started well. We're told that he started by giving names to the animals. So he was studying them, looking at their characters, and giving them names accordingly. But he didn't get very far with his work of being a steward, because the serpent came along, Satan, and tempted Eve, and she sinned, she disobeyed God, and then Adam disobeyed God, and so they were not able to continue being God's image, not fully anyway, and they were sent out of the garden. And this is what God said to Adam would be the result of his sin. Cursed is the ground because of you. It will produce thorns and thistles for you. Thorns and thistles are weeds. When Adam did his gardening and farm work, he would not just produce crops, but weeds would grow, plants that he did not want. And his work would be damaged, and it would be very hard. So first of all, God put the earth under human beings whom he created in his image. He subjected the earth to them. But when the human beings sinned, that meant that now the earth and all of creation was subjected to sinful human beings. And that is why it was cursed. It was damaged. It was not perfect anymore. And that situation has continued ever since that time. For instance, Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel. And when they were grown up, Cain murdered his brother Abel. He killed him. And God said to him, because you have shed the blood of your brother, the earth is cursed because of you. So Cain's sin affected the earth, affected creation, just like Adam and Eve's sin affected creation. And that has gone on ever since. In the book of Numbers, it says, bloodshed pollutes the land. So if someone is murdered, that has an effect on the land and the people, the whole of creation around it. And Jeremiah says this. It's chapter 12, verse 4, if you want to read it. How long will the land lie parched, or will the land mourn? It means to be sad. And the grass in every field be withered. That means it will dry up. Because those who live in it are wicked. The animals and birds have perished. In other words, the wickedness of humans, the sin, has affected even the grass and the animals and the birds. And Isaiah says this. This is chapter 24, verses 4 to 6. The earth dries up and withers. The world languishes and withers. The exalted of the earth languish. That means something like mourn, be sad. The earth is defiled by its people. They have disobeyed the laws, violated the statutes, and broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore, a curse consumes the earth. Its people must bear their guilt. Therefore, earth's inhabitants are burnt up, and very few are left. Again, that is the result of sin. People have disobeyed God's laws, and that affects the earth and the people in it, and everything else in God's creation is affected by the sin of human beings. And this story, this sad story, continues today. The sin of people in the world today affects the whole of creation. It affects other people, and it affects everything that God has made. Think about pride and greed and selfishness and thoughtlessness. Very often these sins govern the relationship between people and other people, but also with land, with sea, with air, with plants, with animals. For instance, we use the things that God created very often very selfishly. We don't think of the needs of other people and of the rest of creation. For instance, we need trees. We need them to build houses. We need them for fuel. And that's one way in which God provided for us. We need trees and plants for food. We've just read that. God provided them for us. But we use them as if they were just for me. If you cut down a tree to use it in some way, do you think about, well, I'll say we, if we cut down a tree, do we think about what's going to happen later? If we cut down a lot of trees, maybe other people won't have any wood to use in the future unless we plant more trees. And the same goes for food. We've been greedy. And the same goes for the things that we dig out of the earth, like coal and minerals to get metals and so on. We just keep digging and digging. Do we think about the future? Do we think about the needs of other people? So you can see that our sin affects creation in the way that we use creation. We say we have exploited it, not used it wisely and thoughtfully. We've used it as if we owned it, but we don't own it. The earth is the Lord's. And he showed this in the laws that he made for Israel. He made those laws on the basis of the principle that we are stewards. We don't own the land. So when the people of Israel moved into the promised land, God showed them how they were to divide up the land. They were to divide it up based on the needs of the people. There were 12 tribes. Some tribes were bigger than others. The bigger tribes were given more land than the smaller tribes. And then the tribes would divide the land between the families. A large family received more land than a small family. It was all done according to their needs. But they didn't own that land. God said, the land is mine and you are my tenants. You're a tenant if you rent a house from someone else. It's not yours. You use it, but it belongs to someone else. That's true of this world too. It belongs to God. We are his tenants. Sometimes a person might become very poor and they had to sell some land just to get enough money to live. That was allowed, but not forever. Every 50 years there was a year of Jubilee. And at that time, all land that had been bought had to be returned to its original owner. And that meant that you wouldn't get anybody who was very rich and owned a lot of land, and other people who were very poor and didn't have any land. You could only sell your land for a while. Then you or your children would get it back at the year of Jubilee. And if we look around at the world now, we certainly have not followed that law. There are some people in the world who are very rich. They own a lot of land. And there are other people who have no land at all. And land is life support. It's on land that we can grow our food, keep our animals. We depend on land. And so we have not followed God's rule that the land is his and we are his tenants. The earth is the Lord's. So can this situation be changed? Well, I'm going to read you the end of the story, or nearly the end of the story, and we find that in Romans chapter 8. Yeah. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, we groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for adoption as sons, the redemption of our bodies. This shows us that the end of the story is coming. It's in sight. Paul seems to be referring to the story of the fall of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, they are the ones who subjected, in verse 20, the earth to futility. What does futility mean? Well, I have a translation, it's vanity. Seems to be the best French word for that. Another English word is frustration. And that's what happened. When Adam and Eve sinned, it affected the earth. It was cursed. And that futility or vanity means that something does not do the job it was made for. If you have a car and you get up in the morning to go to work and your car won't start, that is something that is futile. Or vain. It doesn't work. It doesn't do what it was made for. And it's no use to you. So something that is futile or vain is not functioning in the way that it was meant to function. And that is what has happened to creation. It's not functioning in the way that God made it to. It's not producing, for instance, as much food as it could do. And remember, the earth is the Lord's. So what did God create the earth for? Well, to glorify Him is one thing. David said, the heavens declare the glory of God. And that is true of the earth as well. But the earth at the moment is not doing that very well. Look around you. Do you see the glory of God in everything? Well, you do in some things, like the sunset perhaps, and the trees. But then you look at some other aspects of the creation around you and you find they're not glorifying God. When I look around here, I see a lot of rubbish, for instance, in the streets. I don't think that glorifies God. I'm sure you can think of many other ways in which we, humans, have damaged the creation so it no longer glorifies God. But then we read in Genesis that God made creation, especially the plants, to provide food for humans and for other animals. And it's not doing so well at that either, because there are many people in the world who are hungry. They can't get enough food, either because the land isn't producing enough or because greedy people are taking it for themselves and it's not being shared equally. And I'm afraid that is true of my country. When you go to a supermarket or a shop, you see more food than we need, whereas some people in Haiti can't get enough food. And I'm afraid we in Britain also, we waste a lot of food that people in Haiti would love to be able to eat. And the same is true other parts of the world. And Paul says here that the creation is groaning. That's a similar word to what we read in Jeremiah. It's mourning. It's sad. It's not doing its job. It's not functioning as God designed it for. But Romans 8 is not just about that futility, or he says bondage to decay in verse 21. But it's also about hope. We read in 20 and 21 that there is a hope that the creation will be set free from that bondage to decay. Creation will be set free. When? Well, look at verse 19. What's the creation waiting for? It's waiting for the sons of God to be revealed. When will that be? Well, if you look at verse 23, we see there words which refer to Jesus coming again, when we shall be adopted as his sons. That's fully adopted. My theology class knows that one of the things God does when we are saved is he adopts us as his children. But they also know that many of the things God does for us when we are saved are not yet complete. They are déjà, mais pas encore. We are saved now, but we also have a full salvation in the future when he comes. And that's what Paul is saying in verse 23. When he comes, we shall be fully adopted as sons. Our bodies will be fully redeemed. But that's the time that humans are waiting for and creation is waiting for. The creation waits in eager expectation for the sons of God to be revealed. So does that mean that we have to just wait and creation has to just wait until Jesus comes again and nothing will change? Wrong. Because we are already God's sons. We have already been transformed. We already have, Paul says, the first fruits of the Spirit. The first fruits in Israel meant your first crops. And you had to give them to God. When your field of wheat ripened, you had to give the first part of it to God. That was the first fruits. And when you got the first fruits, you knew that the rest of the crop would follow. Paul says the Spirit is the first fruits we have received, which promise us that more from God will follow. So we have the Spirit, but we have not got everything from God fully yet. But we are transformed, we are sons of God. So if sin affects the world, surely if we are living as sons of God and reflecting his image, that will also affect the whole of creation. If we live in love, kindness, joy, peace, all the other things that are the fruits of the Spirit, then surely that must help to transform the world. But we can do it directly as well. Because every day of our lives, everywhere we can go, we can be acting as God's stewards. If we are caring for the land, the water, the air, the plants and the animals, and the people around us, we are being God's stewards. We are living in his image. And that means that we use everything that we use fully and carefully. And that applies to everything. I talked about wood and food just now. It applies to electricity. It applies to paper. Now, I wonder if you're thinking, what's she talking about electricity and paper for? Preachers should talk about spiritual things. But remember, the earth is the Lord's. And these things are part of the earth. And using things carefully, that's a principle of nature. You know, when a leaf falls off a tree, this is the biologist in me talking now. When a leaf falls off the tree, it falls on the earth. It is eaten by worms and insects. It decays, and the chemicals in it go into the soil, and plants use them again. That's God's principle. We call it recycling. Using things again and again. Using them carefully. God built that principle into creation, and we should be applying it in our lives. And it means that we need to think about everything we use and everything we do. What's the result of this action? How will it affect other people? How will it affect the rest of creation? I think you can probably think of examples of how you can use the things that you have, that God has provided, in such a way that you are caring for creation. You are being his stewards. And maybe you can go further. Maybe you can do something that will help other people to do that. Now this is an idea I gave a class the other day. It's not for everybody, but maybe it's for somebody. I see a lot of rubbish in Haiti. But you know, in Britain what we do now is this, and this has happened only recently. When we have things we want to throw away, we have to put them in different bins or containers. Paper in this one, glass in this one, plastic in this one, and then somebody comes around and collects them, takes them to a factory, and they are remade into new things. So you can buy what we call recycled paper. It's been made from old paper. And it means that we are using God's creation in the best way possible by reusing it. I wonder if there's somebody here who could get that sort of system going in Haiti. I heard that there was something happening in Port-au-Prince. I'm not sure. You could get someone, pay people to collect plastic bottles and have a factory where they're remade into new plastic. Now I know that I'm thinking a long way ahead maybe, but it's something that somebody in Haiti needs to think about, and in many other countries of the world. Is it possible to do that? If you did that, you would be carrying out a ministry which is part of God's plan, just as much as if you were a pastor of a church. Anyway, that's something to think about. How can we really, in our practical lives, be stewards of God's creation? Like Joseph was a good steward, and all that Potiphar owned was blessed. So God is going to now and in the future bless his creation through us, because the earth is the Lord's. God bless you.
Amen.